conversation and role play with you guys after the movie. But beforehand, Larry, if you want to address this movie.
All right, what can I tell you? When I made this picture, little did I think that would be relevant 50 years later. But now, the racial situation in America is worse than ever, I guess. And so this picture really has some importance to it. It's really way ahead of its time when it was made. People didn't know what to make of it, whether it was a drama or a comedy or both. Well, now we know there are such things as dramedies, right? And a whole new art form has come along and caught up with this movie because it is a dramatic film, but it's also a comedy and a satire, really, on racism in America. And it was my first picture. I wanted to make something, and I didn't want to make an ordinary first picture. I didn't want to make a horror film or a robbery film or something, you know, traditional. I wanted to make something like has never been made before. And I must say, all these years later, this movie is still like a movie that's never been made before. There's never been anything quite like it. So I think you'll enjoy it. If you've seen it before, it's always worth seeing again because there's so much going on. There's so much subtext.
Can you talk about in the documentary about you? You talk about how you had great freedom because of who the producer was. On this movie. He gave you a lot of great latitude.
He just gave me some money. He never came around. He never saw the picture. When he did see it, he didn't like it.
He didn't like it.
No, and he didn't give me the rest of the money. I gave it to somebody else. So I was schlepping the movie around for months. By that time I had 10 reels of picture and 10 reels of track. So I had 2 boxes with 20, 35 millimeter reels in it. That was a lot of stuff, and I had this push cart, one of those garbage can push carts with the movie on it. And I was taking it from one studio to the next, showing it to people, and sometimes they'd say, "Well, you can't stay while we watch the picture. We don't allow the filmmakers to stay while we look at the film." I'd say, "Okay, I'm taking the film home then. You don't get to see it." So they almost always relented and let me stay to watch the picture because I knew if I wasn't in the room, they would take phone calls. And sometimes they would say, "Put on the next reel," or "Put on the 4th reel," or something. Or they'd get up and leave before the picture was finished. So I insisted on staying through all the screenings. That was both in New York and LA. It was even tougher moving the picture around in New York City with all the traffic. And having to take it into office buildings where the elevator operated would say, "You can't bring that in here. You have to take that around to the service entrance." And I'd say, "I'm not a delivery boy, I'm the director of the movie." So they eventually would let me go upstairs. And I did run it for Josephine Levine, who was a famous film distributor who distributed films like The Graduate and some of Mike Nichols' other pictures. When I showed it to him, and he said to me, "Oh, I really enjoyed this picture. Can you bring it back tomorrow? I want to see it again." I got all excited, so I brought it back the next day to show Josephine Levine, and he watched it all over again. And then he said, "Jay, if you'd come in here last year, I would have tied you to a chair, but I don't have any money." I said, "You don't have any money? Why did you make me bring the picture back?" He said, "Well, I liked it so much I wanted to see it again." What could I say? So I finished with him and I took the picture out down the elevator. When I got out of the elevator in the lobby, they said, "You can't take that out of here without a pass." I said, "I didn't have a pass to bring it in." They said, "Well, you can't have a pass. You have to have a pass to take it out." And it was a Friday afternoon. So I went back up to his office and it was closed. They were gone for the week. So now I'm stuck in the building with my movie. No way to get it out. No, it took me quite a while, but I finally made enough of a fuss that they did let me take the picture out and got it out of there. And we showed it all over the place. I showed it for Columbia Pictures. We ran it for a man named Bosley Crowther. who had been the #1 critic for the New York Times, and he liked the picture. But it was too hot for people to distribute. For a major studio, it was too racially raw, and there was too much sex between a black man and a white woman for most of the studios to be able to handle it. So, we moved from one place to the other, everybody telling me how good it was, but everybody refusing to put up the money to finish the picture and to get it out. But one thing, when we showed it over at Warner Brothers, there was a man named David Brown, who at the time was one of the heads of the studio. And when we started to run it, he said to me, he said, I may not be able to stay for the movie because I have a meeting, so I may have to leave. A lot of times they tell you that before the screening, so they have the out to walk out of the picture without making a clear explanation. So we were running the picture, and there's a scene in the film when Yaphet Kotto is going through these people's belongings, and he pulls a book out of the bookshelf, and he looks at it, and then he throws it away. And I just found the book here. He has it here. And it's the Confessions of Nat Turner. And he pulls the book out of the shelf, looks at it, and then he tosses it. And David Brown says, I bought the rights to that book. He recognized it. He says, I'm staying for the whole picture. But he didn't buy it. And neither did Dick Zanuck, his partner. It was just too hot for most people. So finally, we found Jack H. Harris, who was an exploitation filmmaker. He had made his biggest money with a picture called The Blob. So I called him Jack the Blob Harris. And his wife, I called her Blobette. And he saw the picture when the lights came up. He said, I want to take this picture. I want to distribute this film. Little did I know, he had all the wrong reasons. He thought it was a black exploitation movie, like Shaft or Superfly, a gang movie, a crime movie, something he could sell to black audiences. And it wasn't. It was a comedy. Eventually, when I saw the ad campaigns he prepared, I realized he had all the wrong idea about what the picture was. I said, Jack, this picture's a comedy. He says, well, I'm not going to stand in the aisle and tell them not to laugh. I said, Jack, if people buy a ticket to see an action movie and it turns out to be a comedy, they're not going to like it because that's not what they paid to see. If you advertise vanilla ice cream and then you give them chocolate, people aren't happy. They want it vanilla. So you can't mislead the audience. Well, he wouldn't listen. And to prove I was wrong, he ran the picture as a sneak preview on Hollywood Boulevard at a theater that's long gone called the World Theater. And they used to run double features and triple features. It was down past Vine Street. And I hate to tell you the name of the movie that was playing at the theater at the time. It's a very offensive title, and you wouldn't believe any movie could ever been named this. But the picture that was playing was called The Legend of Nigger Charlie.
Oh dear God.
Would you believe it was such a movie ever? And this is the picture they previewed my film with. Well, I was appalled. I said, but you know what happened? The black audience loved the picture. They laughed at all the jokes. They laughed at all the right time. They had a very good time. And this only reinforced Jack's idea that he could sell this as a black exploitation film, which didn't work later on when he did put the picture out. So, then we tried to get the picture played over in England. So the British distributor came over. Oh, very intellectual, David Niven type fellow. We realized Jack did such a terrible job of shooting our film. He didn't understand it at all. But we should do something different. So they put out an ad campaign. They retitled the picture, Dial Rat for Terror.
Oh no! Oh my!
I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. These intelligent, effete gentlemen would do that to me. So that's the problem we had with the picture when we played originally. It got discovered by a few people. A few New York reviewers liked the film. And it played a little bit, but it didn't do much business. And then as years passed, the picture kind of caught on. People started talking about it and seeing it. I remember one nice thing happened. We ran a preview of it at the Apple Theater in Westwood. And after the screening, I was in the back of the theater, and this young actor walked up to me and introduced himself as Michael Douglas. You know Michael Douglas, the actor. And he said, "I really loved your film." He said, "You write like John Guare." You know who John Guare was? He wrote The House of Blue Leaves, and he was a famous New York Broadway playwright. That was the best compliment I got on the picture, was from Michael Douglas. And when I ran into him 20 years later, he remembered the picture. Which is amazing for anybody to remember a movie 20 years after they see it. But most people who see this picture do remember it after all these years. So we made the film at the beginning. Well, I started to make it in 16 millimeter, and after a couple of days, I didn't like it. I said, this picture deserves 35 millimeter, it deserves quality. So we went 35, and I went out and got an old cameraman named George Foles. George had been one of the top cameramen at MGM for years, 11 Academy Award nominations, never won. And he was nominated 11 times for pictures like Meet Me in St. Louis, Green Dolphin Street, Ziegfeld Follies. He had been DP for pictures with Lana Turner and Joan Crawford and Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. Oh my God. Here he was going to be working for me. Well, he was retired and he was sick of playing golf. He wanted to do something, and I was offering him a chance to be the director of photography on a movie. So he picked up the phone and he called all his cronies. They were all retired. They were all the top people from MGM.
Wow.
The lighting directors and all the people that had worked with him on great MGM movies. They all came over and shot this movie for me. It was wonderful.
How many days was this?
18 days about. And they were elderly, conservative gentlemen, and I think they were a little shocked at the movie where there was going to be interracial sex, but they got used to it. They got used to it as time went on, and they got the jokes, and they liked the performances, and the actors were wonderful. Yavin Koto, who played the Black Intruder, he says it's the best acting he ever did in a movie in his entire career, and that's something to say. He worked for a lot of other people. He was in it. He was in Alien. He was in a film that William Wyler directed. He was in a lot of films, and he liked me better than anybody. And I liked him too. And I still see him occasionally after all these years. So we made the film with all those wonderful old technical people, and it looked really nice. I think you'll agree that the thing about the picture is the people look great. You know, today you go to the movies and you see the actors on the screen, and they've got pimples and all kinds of lines on their face. They light the set beautifully, but the actors are not really lit very well. Now these people who work for me, they had lit Joan Crawford and Greta Garbo and Lana Turner. I mean, they were used to lighting actors, so that's why the actors look good in this film. I was happy with it. I'm still very happy with the movie, and I probably wouldn't do anything different. The one thing I would call to your attention is that every character in the picture is the fantasy of another character. Like, for example, the black housewife has a fantasy, and the fantasy is the black man who comes into her house. You know, The black man's fantasy is the housewife, the white housewife, who welcomes him, even though he's an intruder. And the actor, Yaphet Kotto, you did such a great job directing him. We want to make some movies with black actors, and you're so good at directing black actors. I said there was only one black actor, and he was the same as everybody else. He said, well, we want to know if you can come up with an idea for a black exploitation movie, like Shaft and Superfly. I said, well, it just so happens that I was hired 6 months ago by Sammy Davis Jr. to come up with a movie for him because he was tired of playing second fiddle to Sinatra and Dean Martin. And I came up with this gangster idea since Sammy was a little guy and James Cagney and Edward G. Robinson were little guys. I came up with the idea of doing a gangster movie like they used to do at Warner Brothers, but with black actors. They call it Black Season. And after I wrote it, Sammy's manager came to me and said, Sammy's just gotten in terrible trouble with the Internal Revenue Service and he can't pay you. So I wasn't going to sue Sammy Davis Jr. I said, okay, let it go. And I happened to have the treatment in the car. So I ran downstairs and got it out of the trunk, brought it up to Arkoff, and we had a deal that afternoon, and we made Black Caesar. And that picture turned out to be a huge hit. #1 at the box office, 9s around the block. Unbelievable. I mean, back in New York City, it was February at the theater on Broadway. The line was around the block for the next show. People standing in the cold waiting to get in. It was unbelievable. They added shows. The last show went on at 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was an interesting show, too, because the 4 o'clock show, they actually show went on around 2:30 in the morning. All the pimps came in and brought their girls at the 2:30 show. It was something to see. And anyway, it was such a big hit that they ordered
What do you want? Don't make me do it again, please.
Attention, hungry housewives. You must see Housewife. Overfed and underloved. She'll try anything.
Would you like a drink?
Housewife.
She has nothing to lose.
Well, 3:30 o'clock. That's how I'm gonna bang the hell out of her and cut her throat.
Jeannie Berlin, the Heartbreak Kid, does it again.
You are dangerously ill.
I love you.
Yaphet Kotto as Bone does it again and again.
Don't come calling me names, lady. I'm just a big black butt doing what's expected of him.
Housewife. The movie every housewife must see. Housewife.
She has nothing to lose.
Rated R.